from Group 7.
I'm Ayudianur Aisyah.
My name is Alvina Anastasia.
I'm Angelina Keisha.
I'm Atasila Sabira.
And today we're going to talk about poetry in Victorian era. And we talk about In Memoriam by Alfred Tennyson. So, what happened in Victorian era? The Victorian era in 1837 to 1901 was a period of major social, economic, and technological change in Britain caused by the Industrial Revolution, which transformed society from agricultural to an industrial economy. This means that during this time, people didn't live the same way as before. Many people stopped working in farms and started working in factories. Because of this, their daily life, jobs, and even their lifestyle changed a lot. Rapid industrialization led to urban growth, overcrowded cities, poor living conditions, and social inequality, especially among the working class. So, because many people moved to cities, the cities became very crowded. And however, not everyone had a good life. Many workers were poor and lived in bad conditions. So this created a big gap between social classes. In this era, fiction became very popular as society changed rapidly due to industrialization. Novels reflected real social conditions such as poverty, class differences, and inequality, and were used to criticize social problems. That's why fiction became important. Writers didn't just tell stories for entertainment, but they also showed what was really happening in society. And through novels, readers could understand the problems people face in real life. Meanwhile, poetry more focused on how people felt in life. Poetry became very important too in Victorian era because this often used to express moral ideas, emotional struggles, and deep philosophical questions about faith, society, and human life. One of the most important Victorian poets was Alfred Tennyson.
So, I'm gonna explain about historical background. Alfred Tennyson is one of the most important poets of the Victorian era, a period marked by rapid industrial and scientific development, as well as growing doubts about traditional religious belief. His poetry often reflects this tension between faith and doubt, which was a central issue of his time. This explains that he lived in a time of scientific progress and religious doubt, which is why his poetry often explores the conflict between faith and doubt. He was born in 1809 in Somersby, Lincolnshire, England, into a large family. His father, a clergyman, provided him with a strong literary education, which influenced his early interest in poetry. Tennyson began writing at a young age and developed a deep connection with nature, which later appeared in his works. This explains his early life, where his father influenced his literary interest and his connection with nature later appeared in his poetry. Tennyson studied at Trinity College, Cambridge, where he met Arthur Hallam, who became his closest friend and a major intellectual influence. Hallam's sudden death in 1833 had a profound impact on Tennyson's life and work. This personal loss inspired his famous poem In Memoriam AHH, which explores themes of grief, memory, and spiritual struggle. This is the most important part of his life, because the death of Arthur Hallam deeply affected him and inspired In Memoriam, which focuses on grief and loss. In 1850, Tennyson was appointed Poet Laureate of Great Britain, becoming the official poet of the nation. His works were widely admired and represented the values and concerns of educated Victorian society.
Description In Memoriam. In Memoriam is a poetry that explores Tennyson's grief, Victorian struggles of faith and doubt, philosophical question about life, death, and nature, making it one of the most famous elegies in English literature. Okay, the next one is History of Poetry. In Memoriam written between the years 1833 and 1850, and published anonymously in 1850. After 17 years of composing, writing, and editing, from 1833 to 1850, Tennyson anonymously published the poem under the Latin title, In Memoriam AHH 1833. Moreover, given the literary, artistic, and commercial success of the poetry, Tennyson further developed the poem and added Canto 59, A Sorrow Will to Live With Me, to the 1851 edition, and then added Canto 39, Old Water of These Buried Bones, to the 1871 edition. The epilogue concludes in memoriam with an epithalamium, a nuptial poem for the poet's sister, Cecilia Tennyson, on her wedding to the academic Edmund Law, Washington in 1842. An epithalamium is a poem written specially to a bride on the way to her material Cambridge.
The next is In Memoriam tells about. In Memoriam AHH 1850 by Alfred Lord Tennyson is an elegy for his Cambridge friend, Arthur Henry Hallam, who died of cerebral hemorrhage in Vienna at the age of 22 years in 1833. In Memoriam reflects the Victorian struggle to reconcile traditional religious faiths with the emerging theories of evolution and modern geology. The verses show the development over 3 years of the poet's acceptance and understanding of his friend's death, and conclude with an epilogue, a happy marriage song on the occasion of the wedding of the poet's sister Cecilia.
Okay, move to elements of poetry.
So we're going to talk about the diction. Diction refers to the language used in poetry. Commonly, this term is used to describe the most abstract examples of poetic language. And in Alfred Tennyson's work, which is In Memoriam, it uses words like dark, unlovely, ghastly, and blank to create a negative and empty atmosphere. These words suggest that the speaker doesn't just see the place as physically dull, but also feels emotional empathy. Here's the example, guys. First, we have clasp. It is archaic diction, and it is from a hand that can be clasped no more. So the word clasp, it is archaic form of clasped, means to hold tightly. It suggests that the speaker once held someone close, but now that person is gone. And it is showing a loss and longing. And second, we have ghastly. It is emotional diction from ghastly through the drizzling rain. But the word ghastly usually means something frightening or unpleasant. But in this context, it describes the gloomy, painful feeling of grief, making the scene feel cold like and lifeless. And the last is bald street. It is from On the bald street breaks the blank day. It uses metaphorical diction. The word bald usually means lacking hair, but here it is used to describe the street as empty, plain, and lifeless. The next is rhetorical figures. A rhetorical figure is a creative way of using words to make more powerful or emotional. Instead of using words in their usual, rhetorical figures make language more vivid and expressive by adding deeper meaning. The core idea here is that poetry doesn't just communicate facts, but it communicates feelings. By using rhetorical figures, the author moves away from literal description to create a more vivid experience for the reader. Personification. In the noise of life begins again, life is described as if it
can produce sound. Humanizing the abstract through personification, the poem gives life the ability to make noise. This suggests that life isn't just a concept, but a physical presence that can be heard and felt. Simile, and like a guilty thing I crave. It uses like to compare the speaker to a guilty thing. Visualizing emotion. The use of simile comparing the speaker to a guilty thing is a shortcut to help us understand the speaker's internal state. Instead of just saying they feel bad, the comparison to creeping in guilt helps us visualize their movement and hesitation.
Okay, the next one is theme and memoriam. Themes in poetry are the central, the underlying ideas, message, or universal concept a poet explores throughout their work, revealing the big picture or deeper meaning beyond the surface topic. And theme in memoriam, the first one is intense and physical grief. The poetry depicts mourning not just as an emotion, but a bodily habitual experience, such as walking through a specific painful location. And the second one is the emptiness of grief. The house, once a place of warmth and excitement, and now is now dark and unlovely. This theme explores how grief transforms familiar happy places into symbols of loss. And the third one is the physicality of loss. Tennyson focuses on the hand that can no longer be clasped. This emphasizes that death is not just an abstract concept, but also the permanent absence of physical touch and presence. The fourth is the difference between internal sadness and external life. I cannot sleep. I grip the rest of the world continuously, and the noise of life resumes for everyone else, highlighting the contrast of loneliness. And the fifth is internalized guilt. Yes, the speaker describes himself as a guilty thing who creeps in the earliest morning, suggesting a feeling of shame or self-reproach related to his intense and unhealed mourning. And and the last one is finality. The section concludes with the realization that the noise of life is now far away, emphasizing the isolation and the finality of death.
The next is stanza and rhyme. The stanza that used in this poetry is quatrain, four-line stanza, or four verses. Alfred Lord Tennyson uses an ABBA pattern. This section focuses on the skeleton of the poem. The way a poem is built basically affects how we feel when we heard it. By using quatrains, four-line stanzas, the poem maintains a steady, predictable pace. This structure acts like a heartbeat, regular and consistent, which helps the reader stay focused on the message. The enclosed rhyme ABBA, Alfred Lord Tennyson's choice of an ABBA rhyme scheme is very intentional. It because the first and last lines rhyme, it creates a wrapped or enclosed feeling. This often makes the stanza feel like a complete, self-contained thought, which is perfect for reflective or somber poetry.
Next is meter. The meter of this poem is iambic tetrameter, which means each line has 4 iambic feet, with a pattern of unstressed and stressed syllables. This regular rhythm creates a steady and reflective tone. As a sustained exercise in tetrametric lyrical verse, Tennyson's poetical reflections extend beyond the meaning of the death of Helen. So, the way to do it is dark house by which once more I stand, something like that.
And that's all, guys. Through In Memoriam, we can see how Victorian literature expresses deep feelings of loss. We hope that this video helps you understand one of Alfred Tennyson's works and the Victorian era better. Thank you for watching and see you next time!